Today I want to talk about how to build a fire in a fireplace insert made by Country. This is basically a steel box that fits inside a fireplace. It makes the burn more efficient, and it helps capture a lot of the heat to go into the house. So as I'm working with a blind person to try to teach him how to build a fire in this box, I would first want my student to become familiar with all the parts of the box and how it works. And so the box part of this is entirely made of metal. It sits on top of a fan section. So and in the center of the fan, on the bottom of the front, there's a little knob, and that knob is a variable speed knob. When you turn it, the fan comes on, and you can see that you can adjust the speed. And the purpose for this fan is to force air around the box and in and out through these vents on the top section of the firebox. Okay, so this is, as the air is forced around the box, it is heated by the fire inside, and it warms up the room. Another important feature on this firebox is found on the bottom left side of the box. There is a knob. It's about an inch in diameter, and it's attached to the end of a long bar. And this bar is able to slide in and out. And this is the damper for the box. Now when the bar is slid out, it opens up a flume wider to allow more oxygen, more air into the box. And then the more that this is shut down, the less air that is allowed in the box. And this is the primary way of controlling the amount of fire that's going on inside the box. Hey, I want to talk about the door, because this is a kind of a tricky thing and an important part. The handle to the door is wrapped in this metal part, and that's to protect you from getting burned when you touch it. So it's very important that you grab this part of the handle instead of other parts of the door, because the heat coming through the door it's possible to burn you. I think one of the ways to find this handle would be to trail along the front edge here. If you trail along this tray and you bump into it, then you can find this handle. Now, when you lift up on the handle is the standard way to open it up. And as you see on the inside, it's really just a piece of curved metal. And over here, there's a little rod of metal that sticks out that the handle attaches to. Now, there are two ways to close this, of course. One way is by moving the handle to the down position, which allows this to latch onto the door, and the harder you push it, the tighter the door seals. However, when you're first starting the stove, a fire, you need a little more oxygen inside. And so a second way to do it is by lifting the handle up so that it engages the edge of the stove box, but there's a gap. You know, as the doors open and you see the opening is wider than it is tall, the opening is wider than the depth of the box as well. And so, you know, as I am in front of the box, if I tuck my elbows in to each side of my body and hold my hands perpendicular to my body, that's about as the width of the box. And so when I'm selecting pieces of wood, I really need a wood that's going to be shorter than that distance between my two hands, tucked in at the elbows. If it's too long, I won't be able to get it into the box. Also, as I reach into the box to touch the back, I notice that from my fingertips to my elbow, the box is about that deep. And again, so I'm going to have some pieces of wood that are going to be facing in perpendicular with the door, and those could be as long as my fingertip to my elbow. And I'll have other pieces of wood that will be parallel to the door, and those can be as long as my two hands that are extended with elbows tucked in to my body. I start by inserting two logs, one on the left and one on the right. These logs are about 4 or 5 inches high. I find that a 2x4 works really well if you have any scrap wood that you want to get rid of that way, or just a piece of split wood. And I place the logs in perpendicular to the door, going from the back to the front, and at about a foot apart. And in order to get a good fire started, I'm going to need some good airflow, but I need something at the very bottom that's going to burn very quickly. And so in between the two logs, two pieces of wood, I take crumpled up newspaper. I find the newsprint pages tend to light more readily and burn more quickly than the really shiny magazine parts. So I tend to focus on the newsprint pages from a newspaper. I crumple them up, single sheet, and I place the balled up newspapers between the two pieces of wood. Next, I began to make like a little log cabin style design made of pieces of wood. Now the first pieces I use are small. They need to be long enough to reach from one piece of wood to the next, and usually a thickness, if they're a stick, about the thickness of my finger. If it's a split piece of wood, it might be a ½ inch to an inch wide, and I'll extend them going first of all from one piece of first from one of the logs to the other, and then I begin to crisscross them, making about 2 or 3 layers of this wood. This is really thin, light wood that's going to catch fire quickly, so that once I light the newspaper, it will catch the wood on top of it quickly on fire. Now I have a total of 3 layers of finger thickness pieces of wood that crisscross from left to right and then from front to back over the curled up newspaper. The wood, I now place crisscross another layer. These pieces of wood are about 1 inch in diameter, and so they're going to provide another layer. And then on top of that, I'm going to crisscross another layer of wood that's even bigger, that might be 2 inches in diameter. I've made a pile of wood, and the top ones are the thickest, and that's because as the heat rises, it's going to eventually catch the thicker things on fire. So one important detail I don't want to forget is to pull the damper all the way out as I go to light the fire. To light the fire, I really prefer the barbecue lighters that are here. They have an extended tube on them where the flame comes out. To use this, there's a button usually on the top that you're going to hold forward with your thumb. Meanwhile, you pull the trigger, and as you pull the trigger, it makes a clicking sound. The flame comes out the end, and so it puts the flame comfortably about 10 inches away from your hand. So again, you're holding this and pulling it out the top. Now, once the fire is ready to lit, I'm going to, I'm going to find the bottom of the stove, and I'm going to stick my fire in. When I hear the newspaper, I can tell that I'm touching it with the end of my barbecue lighter, and so then I'm going to push the trigger on the top. Push the lever on the top and pull the trigger, and I should get some flame. Now, the flame is going to start. I really can't. Oh, I can feel it on my hand here, and I move my hand around. I'm going to need to close this. Oh, I hear a crackle. I need to close this before the smoke comes out into my house. And again, I want to turn it, the handle up. I'm turning it counterclockwise so that it engages the edge of the firebox, and I have a gap on the side. I'm getting smoke coming into my house, so I'm going to turn it the other way and engage it just a little bit more, getting it just a little more shut. And that's how we start a fire in the firebox.